Picture this. It's New Year's Eve, December 31st, 2025. The sanctuary at New Birth Missionary Baptist Church in Atlanta is packed. Pastor Jamal Bryant steps up to the pulpit, and you can tell something's different about this sermon. The energy is charged. He's got something on his mind, something he needs to address head on. And then he says it. The internet went crazy about a dress my wife had on. What happens next sparks a national debate that spreads like wildfire across social media, daytime television, and pulpits across America. Other pastors start weighing in from their own pulpits. Bishop Patrick Wooden doesn't hold back, using words that shock even his own congregation. Sherry Shepherd addresses it on her talk show. And at the center of it all, a flesh-colored gown worn to a charity gala that raised $4 million for historically Black colleges. This isn't just about a dress. This is about marriage, leadership, modesty, tradition, and what it means to be a first lady in the Black church in 2026. Stay with me, because we're breaking down everything you need to know about the controversy that has the Christian world talking. Background. Who is Jamal Bryant? Before we dive into the drama, you need to understand who Jamal Bryant is, because context matters here. This man isn't just any pastor. He's one of the most influential voices in the Black church today, and his journey to get there is remarkable. Jamal Harrison Bryant was born into ministry. His father, Bishop John Bryant, was a prominent pastor in the African Methodist Episcopal Church, so young Jamal grew up watching leadership from the inside. But here's the twist. His path wasn't always smooth. He was kicked out of 2 high schools. Think about that for a second. The man who now leads one of America's most famous megachurches couldn't even finish high school the traditional way, but Bryant didn't let that define him. He became the first person ever admitted to Morehouse College with a GED. From there, he went on to earn a Master of Divinity from Duke University, studied at Oxford University in Great Britain, and earned his doctorate from the Graduate Theological Foundation. That's the kind of redemption story that could only happen in the Black church. In April 2000, at just 28 years old, Bryant founded Empowerment Temple ME Church in Baltimore, Maryland. Under his leadership, that church exploded in growth, drawing thousands of members with powerful worship services and a focus on social activism. For 18 years, Bryant built Empowerment Temple into a hub for both spiritual growth and community empowerment, implementing programs focused on job training, financial literacy, and youth mentorship. But Bryant isn't just a preacher, he's an activist. Before he even became a pastor, he served as the National Youth and College Director of the NAACP for 6 years, leading about 70,000 young people worldwide on nonviolent campaigns. He's been vocal about racial inequality, police brutality, and economic empowerment for marginalized communities. This is a man who doesn't just preach the gospel, he lives it out in the streets. In December 2018, Bryant made a major move. He was selected from a pool of 138 candidates to become the senior pastor of New Birth Missionary Baptist Church in Stonecrest, Georgia. This wasn't just any church. This was the legendary church once led by Bishop Eddie Long, a church with thousands of members and a massive platform. Bryant officially installed as pastor in March 2019, becoming the church's 4th pastor in its 37-year history. Under Bryant's leadership, New Birth has launched new community outreach programs, including initiatives focused on feeding the homeless, educational scholarships, job placement services, and even a community medical clinic that opened in November 2023. His vision integrates faith with practical solutions, helping people achieve economic stability and generational wealth. Recently, Bryant made headlines for leading a national boycott of Target after the retail giant scaled back its diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. What started as a 40-day boycott during Lent turned into an indefinite movement. He's also launched Project 555, a massive voter registration initiative designed to counter what he calls the far-right Republican agenda, partnering with organizations like the NAACP, Divine Nine Fraternities and Sororities, and other civic groups. And then, in November 2024, Bryant married Dr. Carrie Turner. This is his 2nd marriage. And it's important to note that Dr. Turner isn't just a pastor's wife. She holds both a master's degree and a doctorate in divinity. She's brilliant, accomplished, and deeply committed to ministry in her own right. Their wedding was a breathtaking ceremony surrounded by family, friends, and loved ones, marking what they called a spiritual partnership rooted in faith, leadership, and shared dedication to ministry. So when we talk about the dress controversy, we're not talking about some random pastor. We're talking about a man with decades of experience, a track record of social justice work, a massive platform, and a brand new marriage to a highly educated, accomplished woman. Keep all of that in mind as we move forward. The controversy? What actually happened now? Let's get into what sparked this whole thing. On December 20th, 2025, Dr. Carrie Turner Bryant attended the 42nd Annual United Negro College Fund Atlanta Mayor's masked ball at the Signia by Hilton, Atlanta. This wasn't just any party. This was a formal fundraising gala for historically Black colleges and universities, one of the most important charity events of the year. Dr. Turner wore a black lace gown with a flesh-colored illusion bodice. The dress was form-fitting, strapless, with intricate lace detailing over what appeared to be a nude-toned underlining. It was elegant, it was high fashion, and it was designed for a formal gala setting. The event was a massive success. It raised $4 million for the United Negro College Fund. Dr. Turner delivered an invocation at the event, praying until, as her husband would later say, heaven came down. By all accounts, the evening was a triumph for HBCUs and for the Black community. But then the photos hit social media. Dr. Turner posted a montage of images from the gala on her Instagram, and that's when the internet exploded. Critics came out in full force, arguing that the dress was inappropriate for a pastor's wife. Some said it gave the illusion of nudity. Others said it was too revealing, too sexy, not modest enough for someone married to a man of God. The comment section turned into a battlefield. People were debating modesty, holiness, and what it means to be a first lady in the Black church. Some defenders pointed out that this was a formal gala, not a church service. Others argued that standards of holiness should apply everywhere, not just on Sunday mornings. The controversy snowballed quickly. What started as social media chatter turned into a full-blown national conversation. Church group chats lit up, WhatsApp messages flew back and forth, and Pastor Jamal Bryant watched as his wife became the target of judgment from people who had never met her, never prayed with her, and had no idea what she contributed to the kingdom of God. For 11 days, the criticism mounted, and then, on December 31st, New Year's Eve, Pastor Bryant decided he'd had enough. The response? Bryant speaks from the pulpit. When Pastor Jamal Bryant stepped into the pulpit on New Year's Eve at New Birth Missionary Baptist Church, he didn't sugarcoat anything. He addressed the controversy head-on, and his words were powerful, direct, and unapologetic. I need to deal with this head-on, Bryant began, because the other day the internet went crazy about a dress my wife had on. Then he laid out the facts that everyone seemed to be ignoring. Now, they didn't say anything about the $4 million that was raised for the United Negro College Fund. They never mentioned that she prayed until heaven came down. They never said anything about how this was the largest fundraiser for HBCUs in the country. Bryant's voice grew stronger as he called out the critics. But insecure, jealous, petty, small-minded people got in their feelings and set up a false barometer of holiness based off of a dress. And then he clarified something that a lot of people had gotten wrong. Now, you got to help some people, because some people are going to embrace the full knowledge of ignorance without any assistance for understanding. The dress was not see-through. The dress was flesh color. But the moment that really sent shockwaves through social media came next. Bryant looked directly at his congregation and said, I need to set the record straight. I bought the dress, and I like it. I don't care whether you like it or not. She ain't married to y'all. She's married to me. The sanctuary erupted. Some people cheered. Others sat in stunned silence. But there was no mistaking Bryant's message. His wife, his choice, his marriage, and nobody else's business. The church posted a clip of Bryant's remarks on Instagram, and Dr. Turner responded in the comments with gratitude and love. I love you, baby. Thank you, she wrote, not just for me, but for every woman who has experienced what I continue to walk through. Your words have been like a healing salve to my heart and your arms like a warm bath. Not a day passes that you don't affirm who I am and how much you love me. You are him. Thank you for always covering me. The next day, Bryant doubled down on social media. He posted the clip with a caption that pivoted from the dress issue to bigger concerns. The dress issue was dealt with last night at New Birth. Now we must address Black unemployment, protection for the undocumented, healthcare for the underserved, and access to higher education. By the way, over 100 people got saved last night, and over 1,000 kids were in our youth program. It's UP from here. And then, Just to add a little humor to the situation, Bryant posted photos of his wife wearing a completely different style, a casual denim pinafore over a white turtleneck with sneakers and sheer gloves. His caption read, "Saints, y'all win. Come on, baby, we now are church approved. Let God arise. Happy New Year's, everybody. Let's move forward with the whole armor of God. The kingdom has bigger fish to fry." It was classic Jamal Bryant, mixing defiance with humor, making his point while also showing he wasn't going to let this consume him. The backlash intensifies. Other pastors weigh in. But if Bryant thought his response would end the conversation, he was wrong. In fact, it intensified. Other religious leaders started weighing in, and some of their comments were harsh, controversial, and deeply personal. Bishop Patrick Wooden, who leads the Upper Room Church of God in Christ in Raleigh, North Carolina, devoted part of his Sunday sermon to the controversy, and he did not hold back. Wooden started by praising his own wife, First Lady Pamela Wooden, for dressing like a first lady. Then he turned his attention to Bryant and his defense of the dress. "I heard the preacher when he defended her dress by saying, first of all, he bought the dress," Wooden said from his pulpit. And then he said, "I want to address people who don't know anything, who haven't been anywhere, who don't know anything." And then came the line that shocked people. "So I guess our objection to a man of the cloth presenting his wife in public looking like a $2 whore." Two, at least two. Bishop Wooden clarified that his statement wasn't about Dr. Carrie Bryant personally, but about Pastor Bryant's decision to buy the dress. "My statement is not about her. My statement is about him," Wooden said. "I said he presented his wife, and he said he bought the dress. Those are his words, not mine. And there is nothing classy about that. There's nothing modest about that." Wooden continued, "Because there is such a thing as decency. In public, at an event where everyone will see, I don't know of a greater way for a man to demean his wife. And if he doesn't think that that is demeaning her, there is something wrong with him." The comments immediately went viral, drawing backlash of their own. Social media users criticized Wooden for his language, arguing that calling any woman, even hypothetically, such a degrading term was unacceptable from a pulpit. Many pointed out the hypocrisy of a pastor using such inflammatory language while claiming to defend holiness and decency. YouTube Bible teacher Rock Leach also addressed the controversy, emphasizing that optics still matter for those representing the gospel publicly. "Representation matters," Leach said, "and that doesn't stop at the pulpit. It extends to presentation, posture, and how you dress. Modesty is not about looking outdated, but about not distracting from the message with the messenger." Even daytime television got involved. Sherry Shepherd, who hosts her own talk show and follows Dr. Carrie Bryant on social media, addressed the controversy on air. Shepherd admitted she was puzzled by the wardrobe choice. "I just don't know where the illusion of nudity fits in with being a first lady," Shepherd said. For her, the dress resembled something she would expect on celebrities like Cardi B, Jennifer Lawrence, or Lizzo, not the wife of a pastor. Dr. Turner herself eventually spoke out, appearing on the Tamron Hall show to address the controversy directly. She reminded viewers that there is no book dictating how a church first lady must dress, and that her choice did not diminish her faith or commitment to service. The real facts and truth. Now let's separate emotion from reality and look at the actual facts of the situation, because a lot of what's been said is based on assumptions, not truth. Fact number 1. The dress was worn to a formal charity gala, not a church service. Context matters. Expectations for what's appropriate at a black tie fundraising event are different than what's expected on a Sunday morning in the sanctuary. The event had a dress code, it was a masked ball, and formal gowns with illusion netting are standard at such events. Fact number 2. The dress was not see-through. Pastor Bryant made this clear in his sermon. The dress had a flesh-colored lining that created an illusion effect, which is a common design element in high-fashion formal wear. If you look at red carpets, award shows, or any formal gala, you'll see similar designs worn by women across all industries. Fact number 3. The event raised $4 million for the United Negro College Fund. This was the largest fundraiser for HBCUs in the country. Dr. Turner didn't just attend. She prayed at the event. She contributed spiritually to a function that directly impacted Black education and opportunity. That's what should have been celebrated. Fact number 4. There is no biblical dress code for pastors' wives. Nowhere in Scripture does it outline specific hemlines, necklines, or fabric requirements for women married to clergy. The standards that people are invoking are cultural traditions, often rooted in respectability politics and control over women's bodies, not biblical mandates. Fact number 5. Dr. Carrie Turner Bryant is highly educated and accomplished in her own right. She holds a Master of Divinity and a doctorate in divinity. She's not just the pastor's wife. She's a minister, scholar, and leader. The reduction of her to nothing more than her wardrobe choice is dismissive of her actual contributions. Fact number 6. Pastor Bryant's defense of his wife was an act of love and protection. In a culture where Black women, especially those in leadership or married to leaders, face constant scrutiny and criticism, Bryant stood up publicly and said, "Not my wife." That's not losing control. That's demonstrating what covenant looks like. And finally, fact number 7. The controversy reveals deeper issues about how we police women's bodies in religious spaces. The same energy applied to critiquing a dress is rarely applied to holding male leaders accountable for financial mismanagement, spiritual abuse, or moral failures. The selective outrage is telling. Analysis: what this really reveals. So what does all of this actually mean? Why did a dress at a charity gala become a national controversy that dominated headlines for weeks? At its core, this controversy is about power, control, and competing visions of what the Black church should be in 2026. Let's unpack that. First, there's the issue of respectability politics. For generations, the Black church has operated under the burden of respectability, the idea that Black people must present themselves in certain ways to be deemed worthy of respect, opportunity, and dignity. This often places an extra burden on Black women, who are expected to be twice as modest, twice as holy, and twice as careful because they represent not just themselves, but the entire race and the church. Dr. Turner's dress violated those unspoken rules, and the backlash was swift. But here's the question: who decided those rules? And more importantly, do those rules actually serve the kingdom of God, or do they serve a system of control? Second, this reveals the ongoing tension between tradition and modernity in the Black church. Bryant represents a more progressive, culturally engaged approach to ministry. He uses social media, he's involved in activism, he challenges corporate America, and he's married to a woman who doesn't fit the traditional mold of a quiet, submissive first lady who sits in the front pew and says nothing. For some people, that's refreshing. For others, it's threatening. The dress became a symbol of that larger tension. Third, this is about marriage and boundaries. Bryant made it clear his wife's body, her choices, and their marriage are not up for public referendum. That's a radical statement in a culture where pastors' families are often treated as public property, subject to constant surveillance and judgment. By standing up and saying, "I bought the dress, I like it, and she's married to me, not you," Bryant was drawing a boundary. He was saying that his responsibility is to his wife, not to the opinions of strangers on the internet. Fourth, there's a gendered double standard at play. Male pastors regularly wear expensive suits, designer shoes, luxury watches, and tailored clothing that costs thousands of dollars. Rarely do they face the same level of scrutiny for their wardrobe choices. But let a pastor's wife wear a form-fitting gown to a formal event, and suddenly it's a crisis of holiness. That double standard is rooted in the way we sexualize and police women's bodies, while giving men freedom to express themselves however they choose. And finally, this controversy reveals our priorities. As Bryant pointed out, nobody was talking about the $4 million raised for HBCUs. Nobody was celebrating the fact that over 100 people got saved at New Birth on New Year's Eve, or that over 1,000 children participated in the youth program. Instead, all the energy went into debating a dress. That tells you something about where our focus is and whether it's actually aligned with the mission of the church. Bryant's actual achievements and impact. Let's shift gears now and talk about what Pastor Jamal Bryant has actually accomplished, because the dress controversy shouldn't overshadow decades of real, tangible impact. Bryant has built 2 thriving congregations from scratch. Empowerment Temple in Baltimore and New Birth in Atlanta are both megachurches with thousands of members and robust community programs. That doesn't happen by accident. It takes vision, leadership, and the ability to connect with people on a deep level. His work as a social justice activist is significant. From his time with the NAACP to his current boycotts of Target and Dollar General over DEI rollbacks, Bryant has consistently used his platform to challenge systems of oppression and advocate for the marginalized. His Project 55-5 voter registration initiative is working to mobilize Black voters across Georgia, directly countering voter suppression efforts. Under his leadership, New Birth has launched programs that address real needs, feeding the homeless, providing educational scholarships, offering job placement services, and operating a community medical clinic. These aren't symbolic gestures. They're practical interventions that change lives. Bryant has also been a voice for economic empowerment in the Black community. He's launched initiatives focused on wealth building, entrepreneurship, and financial literacy. His approach integrates faith with practical solutions, helping people achieve economic stability and generational wealth. He's an author, a philanthropist, and a thought leader whose sermons reach millions through digital platforms. His podcast, Let's Be Clear, serves as a vital channel for informing his audience about ongoing initiatives and challenging listeners to think critically about faith, politics, and culture. And perhaps most importantly, Bryant has created space for difficult conversations. He doesn't shy away from controversy. He engages with it head-on, whether it's talking about sexuality, politics, race, or economics. That willingness to tackle hard topics is rare in religious leadership, and it's part of why he has such a devoted following. Bigger lessons and takeaways. So what can we learn from this entire situation? What are the bigger lessons that extend beyond one pastor, one wife, and one dress? Lesson 1. Representation matters, but so does autonomy. As public figures, pastors and their families do represent something larger than themselves. But that doesn't mean they forfeit their autonomy, their agency, or their right to make personal decisions. We have to find a balance between accountability and freedom. Lesson 2. Context is everything. A formal gala is not a Sunday service. A charity event is not the same as the pulpit. We cannot apply one set of standards across every situation and expect it to make sense. Wisdom requires discernment, and discernment requires paying attention to context. Lesson 3. The way we treat women, especially Black women in leadership, reveals our true values. Are we celebrating their accomplishments, their intellect, their contributions, or are we reducing them to their appearance and policing their choices? The answer to that question says more about us than it does about them. Lesson 4. Marriage is a covenant, not a democracy. Pastor Bryant's response to the criticism was rooted in his covenant with his wife. He wasn't asking for permission or approval. He was fulfilling his role as her protector and advocate. That's what husbands are called to do. Lesson 5. We need to examine our priorities. If we're spending more energy debating a dress than we are addressing poverty, injustice, educational inequity, and systemic racism, then our priorities are out of alignment with the gospel. Jesus talked about feeding the hungry, clothing the naked, and visiting the imprisoned. He didn't spend much time talking about hemlines. Lesson 6. The Black church is evolving, and that's okay. Every generation must wrestle with how to maintain the core of the faith while adapting to the cultural moment. That tension is healthy. It's how institutions stay alive. But we have to do it with grace, love, and a commitment to unity. And finally, Lesson 7. Social media amplifies everything, including our worst impulses. The speed at which this controversy spread, the harshness of the comments, and the lack of nuance in the discourse are all symptoms of a social media culture that rewards outrage over understanding. We have to be more intentional about how we engage online, especially when it comes to matters of faith. Conclusion and final thoughts. So here we are at the end of this journey, and what have we learned? We've learned that a dress can become a symbol. We've learned that tradition and modernity are constantly in tension. We've learned that marriage requires protection and boundaries. And we've learned that the Black church, for all its beauty and power, is still grappling with questions of control, respectability, and what holiness actually looks like in practice. Pastor Jamal Bryant didn't lose it over his wife's dress. He drew a line. He said, "This far and no further." He defended his wife, clarified the facts, and redirected the conversation to what actually matters: raising money for HBCUs, saving souls, empowering youth, and addressing the real issues facing the Black community. Dr. Carrie Turner Bryant handled the situation with grace and dignity, speaking her truth while also acknowledging the hurt and confusion that some people felt. She reminded us that there is no single way to be a First Lady, and that her faith and commitment to service are not defined by her wardrobe. The critics, from Bishop Wooden to Sherry Shepherd to everyday social media users, revealed the deep divisions that still exist within the Black church about gender, modesty, and leadership. Some of those critiques were rooted in genuine concern. Others were rooted in jealousy, judgment, and a desire to control. But at the end of the day, the Bryants are still standing. They're still married. They're still leading. And New Birth Missionary Baptist Church is still doing the work of the kingdom. The dress controversy will fade, the photos will stop circulating, the think pieces will slow down. But the conversations it sparked, those are going to continue. And that might be the most valuable thing to come out of this entire situation. So what do you think? Was Pastor Bryant right to defend his wife so forcefully? Was the dress inappropriate for a pastor's wife? Or is that an outdated standard? And what does this whole controversy reveal about where the Black church is headed? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's have a real conversation about this, because clearly we've got a lot to unpack. And if you found this breakdown helpful, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next deep dive. Until next time, stay informed, stay thoughtful, and remember, the kingdom has bigger fish to fry. Peace.